Welcome to our project demonstration for the P2P file sharing project. We are group 57. As you can see, we are in the class peer process. This is the entry point for the program, and we will basically be calling this class with an argument, which is the peer ID, and we will run 9 instances of this class for 9 different peers. So what this class does is it just starts the peer process, and the first thing that the peer process does is it reads the config file, and it reads the common.cfg first and sets the corresponding variables, which are the preferred neighbors, unchoking interval, and so on. After that, it reads the peerinfo.cfg file, where it sets all of the peer information, which are the ports and the addresses. And it also gets the information whether it has the file or not. And after doing that, it sets its own bit field depending on whether it has the file or not. Once that's done, the peer will then start two of its processes called peer client and peer server. So as you know that the peer will basically act as both a client and a server. So once the peer client is started, what it does is it tries to make a TCP connection to each of the peers that are started before it. And once it makes a TCP connection, it will send a handshake message to the peer. And coming to the peer server part of it, once a peer server is started, it will first start a server socket, which will start listening for peer connections, for peers which try to connect to it. It will also start the timer tasks, which are basically the preferred neighbors, selecting the preferred neighbors, and also the optimistic unchoking task. All right, and as you saw that the peer client, once it makes a connection, it sent a handshake message to the peer server. So the peer server will now receive the handshake message, and it sends its own handshake message in response. And once the client receives that, it's gonna send its own bit field to the server, to the other peer's server, and the peer server will send its own bit field. So they'll exchange their bit field message. Now, once that's done, they'll both start this receive messages method, which is basically they'll start listening for messages. And going to that, we see that once it receives the bitfield message, it's going to call handle bitfield message, where it will check if the peer has extra bits or not. If the peer has extra bits, it's going to send an interested message to the peer. And if there are no extra bits that the peer requires, then it's going to send a not interested message. Now coming to the timer tasks, this is the preferred neighbor task that the peer started. Let's take a look at where it started it. It's going to be started in peer server in the start timer task function. So the preferred neighbor task is a task which is started with the period of get unchoking interval from the config and those many seconds. And same with the optimistic unchoking task, it gets it from the config and starts a timer with a schedule. Coming to the tasks themselves, so the preferred neighbor tasks, it basically gets a list of the players that are interested in it, and it will select the K that have the highest download rate, and it will send choke messages to the rest of them, the ones that were previously preferred but are not anymore, and it will send unchoke messages to the peers that are now selected as the preferred neighbors. Coming to the optimistic unchoking task, what it does is similar. It basically will get a list of interested peers first, and then it randomly selects one of those and will send an unchoke.
We have built our program in IntelliJ IDE, and now we will be executing our program. Before executing, as you can see that here we have created directories for each of the 9 peers, in which the first peer, that is the first peer with 1001 ID, has the file, and the other peer, which is 1006, has the file. So uh, this is the file which we will be sending to other peers. And because transfer happens too fast for optimistic choking interval, we have made the size 4 times the size of its original size by copying it. So now we will proceed to execution. As you can see, we have created nine different configurations for the same peer process, which is our entry point for the program. And in each of the configuration, we have given the respective peer ID. And now I will be starting the execution.
Yeah, so all the peers have downloaded the file, and the peers have now terminated. Let's check the folders for each of the peers. Yeah, as you can see, peer 1002 now has the file. Yeah, so they've all got the file now. Let's look at the logs and try to figure out what's happening. So peer 1001 is started at the beginning, and it gets connected from peer 1002. Peer 1001 doesn't have anyone to connect to because it's the first to start. When peer 1002 is started, it will first make a connection to peer 1001, then they exchange handshakes, and then they exchange bitfield messages. Once that is done, peer 1002 gets to know that peer 1001 has the file, and so it sends an interested message to 1001. And peer 1001 now gets to know that 1002 does not have anything, and it itself has the entire file, so it does not need anything. So it will just send a not interested message to 1002, and it receives the interested message from 1002. After that, 1003 started, and 1001 gets connected from 1003. We can see that 1003 makes a connection to the peers that are started before it, which are 1002 and 1001. It will send a not interested message to 1002 as it does not have any pieces yet, and it sends an interested message to 1001. Going back to 1002, we see that it sends an interested message to 1001, which receives it, and it performs the preferred neighbors task and sets the preferred neighbors as 1002 and 1003. So, and then it unchokes both of those. So if we go to 1002, we can see that peer 1002 gets unchoked by 1001, which enables it to make a request to 1001 for the first piece, which it does not have, which is piece 0, of course. So this 1001 gets the request, and it sends the piece 0 to 1002, and it also sends the piece 0 to 1003, which means that 1003 must have sent a request, which it did. Once 1002 gets the piece, it downloads the piece. We see it downloads the piece. It sends a have message to all the connected peers, and checking 1003, we can see that it receives a have message from 1002 for the piece 0. Same with 1001, it also receives the have message. Yeah, so that covers all the basic kinds of messages, which are the bit fields, the handshakes, the interested, not interested, the choking, unchoking, and the request and the piece and the have message as well. Uh, let's look at the optimistic unchoking thing. Yeah, so somewhere down the line, we can see that 1001 sets the optimistic unchoked neighbor as 1003. This means that 1003 is still interested in its pieces, but 1001 probably doesn't have it in its preferred neighbors. Let's look at some other log file, probably like 1006 or maybe 1007. We see that it makes a connection to all the peers that were started before it, which are 6, 4, 3, 1, 5, and 2. And it sends interested messages to the ones which have files, which have some pieces, and it gets not interested messages from all of those because it has just started and it does not have any pieces. And the rest is just, it's similar basically. Let's look at 1006, which does have the file at the start. So it sends not interested messages to everyone it connects to because it has the file and it doesn't need anything. And we see that it gets not interested messages from 1003 and 1002, which probably mean that these guys have already finished downloading the file. As we're running on local, the file transfer is really quick, so these guys probably download the file even before 1006 can start. But we see that 1004 doesn't have the complete file yet, and so it's interested. It also continues getting have messages. Now we are going to run the project on the CIC servers using the config files that were provided. For this, we are making use of the start remote peers code, and we have made a few changes to it which allow us to run the code. Now before we run that, we're just gonna SSH into the server and reset everything using this handy little script. So now as you see, let's check these peer folders. Peer 1001 does have the file, and all the other people don't. Only 1006 and 1001 have the file. All the others are empty. Alright, so now let's try and run this program. So we have start remote peer set up. Let's compile and run it. Alright, all the processes have been started. Let's SSH into the server and see how it's going. You can see that the processes are still running and the log files are being created. Let's check the folders. 1 has it, 2 doesn't have it, 3 nobody has finished downloading yet. Now this is probably due to everybody using the server at the same time. Let's check the processes. Oh yeah, as you can see, all the CPUs are completely used 100%, and so my little Java process is it's just not getting any CPU, and so it's sort of unable to run it. Let's try a different server, although all of them are probably facing the same issue. Yeah, there's just no way that it's getting any kind of CPU usage. You can check if the process is indeed running by seeing all the processes under my name, and yeah, this is the one that's running on this server, the peer with peer ID 1004. So these are in fact running, and as we saw in the local demonstration that they do run, but it's just that there's no CPU available, so these processes are kind of stuck. And we'll use the same start remote peers to kill all the processes, being a good person. There we go. We just ran pkill -u username, and that kills all our processes.